The video that you're about to see depicts the shock trials of DDG 53. DDG 53 was one of the early production ships of the DDG 51, or Arleigh Burke Class, and was chosen to undergo a full shock series of tests and trials. This trial was built upon a heritage that goes back over a decade ago. About a decade ago, we shocked CG 48, the Yorktown, with a full series. About 6 years ago, when I first joined the program as the Fleet Introduction and Lifetime Support Director, one of my first jobs was to go out on the CG 53 Mobile Bay for the second series of full shock trials in the cruiser. That was an experience you just don't forget. It taught me a great deal about the importance of shock trials and the importance of getting it right the first time so that these very capable assets will keep on fighting even when hurt. The Arleigh Burke Class will be the backbone of our Navy well into the future. She is well suited for open ocean warfare. She is superbly suited for littoral warfare, for the tactical ballistic missile defense missions that are coming our way. These challenges will have to be incorporated into this ship, and the ship will have to steam into shallower waters, into more dangerous environments. And so the shock trial regimen that we put these ships through is absolutely critical. The shock trials in CG 53 were conducted in the Atlantic, in a different environment, on a different hull form, with a different crew. In the intervening years that have passed, our country has taken some different turns as to how you deal with the environment. These tests were conducted in California, off the coast there. They were conducted in full environmental compliance. We had 20 marine science, marine biologists aboard. We used sonobuoys to ensure that the area was clear. And after each shot, we surveyed, we kept flying, we kept boats out there looking, and no marine mammals were injured or killed. This trial was in full environmental compliance. This trial validated the changes that we had made in the ship and the systems. This was a new hull form. It had a raked mast. It had a new reduction gear. It had data multiplexing systems for machinery control. It had improvements in the spy radar. It had improvements in the large screen color displays. It had improvements in the computers and the other displays used throughout the ship. All of those things came through superbly. In 1991, while Princeton was operating in the Arabian Gulf, a mine detonated underneath her keel at a shock factor that far exceeds the values that we tested ships to. That ship recovered. Her crew knew how to recover. They got their systems back online where they dropped off. They regained their ability to, in fact, conduct warfare, to be the anti-air warfare commander, and they kept on operating. Folks, it doesn't get any better than that. When you take a product a decade ago and you test it, and you engineer and you develop and you test it again, and then you put it to sea, and when God forbid it actually has to be tested in battle, and it keeps on fighting even though hurt, and it keeps on doing its job, you can't have it any better than that. You should be supremely proud of the shipbuilders who build these fine ships, of the companies who do the combat systems engineering, of the engineers who wire it all together and make it work, and of your sailors who sail these ships. This product represents goods and services from over 40 states in our country and from over 1,500 major suppliers, and sailors from almost every sector of our society and throughout our country. This is an American product you can be superbly proud of. As a taxpayer, as a parent, you will know that when your sons and daughters sail in an Arleigh Burke destroyer, to go where the nation needs them, to do what the nation needs. That they are in a ship that has been superbly engineered, tested, tried, fought through after the trials, executed air engagements, executed gunnery engagements, came to full power. This ship is something you should be very happy and very comfortable to have your family, your sons and daughters sail it. And you should be very proud of as an American when it goes to sea and represents your country. I hope you enjoy this video. You made it happen. Thank you very much.
Ready, ready now, always ready, ready to go in harm's way.
It's going to be a big challenge, but hey, that's what I'm in the Navy for.
It's an awesome piece of machinery. To think of it of any less than passing the shock trial, can't fathom it.
Valiant, daring, and unyielding. The Aegis Arleigh Burke Class destroyer has become a modern symbol of stability on otherwise turbulent seas. And the ever-changing role of international politics requires advanced defense technology to meet the challenges of tomorrow. With her new design, swift maneuverability, and intense firepower, the USS John Paul Jones can answer the call to any challenge. Fortified by the tradition of excellence that John Paul Jones wielded 200 years ago, the DDG-53 bears not only his name, but his mission of valor. She was recently confronted with her greatest challenge to date. Ship shock trial. The pledge of the U.S. Navy is to be always prepared, and ship shock is a direct result of this pledge. The Navy's ship shock trial program verifies the survivability of shock-hardened ship structure and system designs. During a shock trial, a ship is subjected to a series of powerful underwater explosions in a controlled environment. The Aegis Arleigh Burke Class destroyer is the newest and most advanced ship to fight through the punishment of a shock trial. In order to further strengthen the design of the 29 Aegis destroyer-class ships, the USS John Paul Jones endured 2 intense underwater explosions off the coast of San Diego in June of 1994. The ship shock trial simulates a near-miss underwater explosion that may be encountered during combat. By detonating a 10,000-pound charge at a calculated distance from the ship, engineers can validate shock hardening standards, design tools, and construction techniques. At the same time, ship's force is subject to a combat-like situation, requiring them to respond instantaneously and fight through the shock.
Sooner or later, this ship or one of her sister ships will go in harm's way. Unfortunately, history has proven that. This test is one of the most significant and best ways that we have been able to come up with to subject a manned ship, my crew and I will all be on here during these detonation events, to a shock trial, to a near combat environment, as close as we can get without risking the people's lives. And we're going to shake this ship and the equipment on it up pretty good.
The DDG 53's vocation toward excellence commenced in 1989, as the civilian workforce began fabrication and testing the ship at Bath Iron Works. During this period, ship's force underwent detailed combat systems training. The crew then prepared the John Paul Jones to set sail for her home port in San Diego. Finally, upon the ship's commissioning in December of 1993, the crew displayed the winning determination needed to attack the challenges that lie ahead.
As Admiral Hookting said so well last night on the phone, the devil is in the details, and you don't get to the details if you don't have the data.
After the commissioning, shock team efforts concentrated on installing massive data collection equipment and modifying the ship's structure to accommodate the complex network of sensors and cameras. In order to collect as much electronically recorded data as possible, the shock team initiated 4 distinct data collection prerogatives. The first and most complex initiative was the dynamic shock response measurements. A series of velocity meters, accelerometers, and strain gauges were physically attached to equipment and the ship's structure, and digitally recorded at remote stations in order to calculate the force of the explosion at specific locations.
Coming out of the shock trials trailers is extensive cabling connections which run to sensors that have been positioned throughout the ship. These are accelerometers and other sensors that are designed to measure the movement of equipment, how far something shifts during a detonation event. There are over 800 sensors that have been positioned throughout the ship and over 100,000 feet of cable specially installed on this hull to support that data-taking effort.
Also installed were electrical power monitoring equipment and detailed signal monitoring instruments for specific cabinets. Finally, a total of 42 cameras record video, film footage, and audio of all aspects of the trial, from start to finish. Video coverage included the installation of 23 miniature data cameras, 10 broadcast video cameras, 3 standard film cameras, 6 high-speed film cameras, and 2 cameras stationed on the ocean-going tug. Recording scenes ranging from exterior operations and damage control to system status panels and combat screen displays.
We have specially installed TV cameras that will monitor the plasma displays and all the lights and indicators on the panels. And they'll do that so that we can see the cascading casualties as they occur during the shock detonation event. All of this will change very rapidly, faster than a human eye could track it. And so we're going to film it to make sure that we can see the true sequence of events during the trial.
All instrumentation is carefully installed with shockproofing and safety taking priority. During this installation period, the USS John Paul Jones makes a stop at the Naval Weapons Station in Seal Beach, where the offloading of live ordnance begins. The offload consists of live vertically launched SM-2 and Tomahawk missiles, hundreds of shells from the 5-inch gun, Harpoon missiles, Mark 46 torpedoes, and many rounds from the close-in weapons system. In place of these, a variety of inert and live test ordnance is unloaded to test the weapon systems following the detonations, providing valuable engineering data. Inert operational and canistered missiles and empty canisters are loaded into the VLS cells, along with 6,000 live and dummy rounds for the Sea Whiz, inert shells for the 5-inch gun, and nearly 50 Super Arbok practice charges for the chaff launchers. With the transfer of ordnance completed, the John Paul Jones takes one step closer to honoring the challenge. Fight-through performance is an important gauge of overall ship survivability. Experiencing the shock trial is rare for the majority of Navy personnel. Therefore, an intense and rigorous training plan is devised to simulate the effects and casualties of the shock experience.
Before I do, again, just to recap, fellas, we've got a big package here. We've got a lot of casualties to impose. Okay, we need to make sure that our guys have their heads screwed on right. And in order to do that, you guys need to pump them up. Okay? In a chaotic situation, the thing that's going to get us through is going to be knowing that they know what they're doing, plus the enthusiasm.
Members of the Afloat Training Group and the Aegis Training Support Group work closely with ship's damage control, combat system, and engineering training teams to develop and execute casualty scenarios.
Either the Wednesday GQ next week or the Friday GQ next week, we're going to wipe out repair 3. Everybody aft of a certain frame, muster on the fantail. You know, 5R will then become a major player, and they haven't been in the past. You know, that'd be the closest repair locker. If you take out 3, that's where we'll go from there.
The speed, accuracy, and safety displayed by the crew are monitored and reviewed by mediators.
When your system goes down, when a piece of equipment falls, you want to look at relaying to your area supervisor the tactical impact. What impact did I just lose to the combat system?
Each daily staging of general quarters illustrates the possible situations that each crew member may encounter as a result of combat shock.
We good to go? Check each other out? Okay, everybody's upper half seal checks are good? Show me an upper half seal check. Good seal? Got a good seal? All right. Steel-toed boots, gloves are on. Okay, this is repair 5. It's centrally located on the ship. Its basic means is to combat Class Bravo fires in the engine rooms. Right now they're being dressed out in their firefighting ensembles, which protects them from high temperatures, steam, and their fire retardant. And they'll be the first ones to go out in case a ship enters danger. What happens is the ship enters danger, and once we take a hit or an explosion over the side, we'll send our investigators out in pairs.
They learn to interact with ship systems and bring the ship online to her full combat capabilities. As the first detonation approaches, the training teams evaluate the weeks of instruction.
Okay. Good job reporting. Good job finding the problems.
There's an anticipation. There's sort of a suspension for the people who haven't been through it, and it's sort of a challenge. It's a goal, a major goal for us to meet that challenge head on and come out and show what the John Paul Jones is made of.
Anticipation of the shock team and the crew heightens as the John Paul Jones sets course to its test station off the Southern California coast. Over 150 miles west of San Diego and within the Pacific Missile Test Range. Once on station, final preparations ensue. Cameras are framed and tested. Cables are dressed and loose items secured. At the rendezvous point, the charge is primed and armed from the USNS Navajo. Once the charge is deployed by the tow line and situated off the port side, general quarters is set throughout the John Paul Jones, ordering all hands to man their stations. Aircraft and surface vessels remain on schedule as the word is passed. The range gives coordinators the go to proceed with the shot. All support teams and crew anxiously await the final countdown.
T-minus 30 seconds and counting. Remove sonar headsets. Ranging team, clear the weather decks. T-minus 15 seconds. Brace for shock. Brace for shock.
All stations TL, brace for shock.
9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, shoot! One, shoot!
Yes!
1, shoot!
The repair teams immediately disperse throughout the ship, searching for any structural or human casualties inflicted by the blast.
30 seconds.
stations DCA. Conduct primary investigation. Make reports to Damage Control Central.
Prepared 3I. T-ships prepared 3. No initial damage, no personnel damage.
Minutes later, all combat system elements are online and fully operational.
Phalanx runs, we've successfully consummated standard missile engagements, and Harpoon and Tomahawk engagements were satisfactory as well, sir.
With all post-shot aerial surveys and operations complete, the John Paul Jones sets course for San Diego. Once back in port, the civilian workforce begins full data analysis at the shore support site, better known as Trailer City. Located at the foot of Pier 13, Trailer City consists of 26 trailers serving as project headquarters for all shock trial personnel. These support teams conduct the shock trial from beginning to end. The variety of people supporting the project includes logistics coordinators, shipbuilding and combat systems engineers, camera crews, surveyors, and maintenance teams. On the ship, team members assist the crew with inspection and repair of equipment. Burst pipes are replaced, faulty systems debugged, and various debris cleaned and secured. Meanwhile, divers swim beneath the surface to closely inspect the hull structure, while photographers document damage throughout the ship. This data helps the engineers to predict the effects of the next shot. Of course, no assumptions can be made, except to expect the unexpected. Determined and focused, the ship riders board for the last shot. The ship has been fine-tuned, all spaces back up to speed, the crew poised and confident. The John Paul Jones sets underway for the last and ultimate test of combat survivability. Meanwhile, USNS Navajo pulls into the Naval Weapons Station at Seal Beach to load on the last charge. Members of UERD and the naval crew carefully secure the charge to the A-frame and chart their course to the open seas. Early the following day, the USS John Paul Jones and the USNS Navajo arrive on station. Aircraft originating from San Nicolas Island and nearby support ships begin the marine mammal surveys. Instruments on board are calibrated and readied. All aerial surveys are completed.
Range is clear. Range is clear, aye.
The order is given to set general quarters. This time, the charge is set to the starboard side, merely half the distance of the first shot. The final countdown begins.
Brace for shot! Brace for shot! Brace for shot! Brace for shot! T minus 15 seconds. Brace for shot. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, shoot!
Okay, investigators, that was it. Let's go.
The ship undergoes the most powerful shock wave that can be safely inflicted. High-speed footage captures the mile-per-second rush of the shock wave through the ship. Communications are immediately checked on all networks.
Season 2. Any station CSAIL com check.
All stations TAO com checks.
Here we go.
Repair lockers, conduct primary investigation. Make reports to DDG Central.
Anti-missile defenses stay online.
Copy, and TRL-CSC, we've got the shock auto SM statement active.
TOI.
Okay, RC, let's go ahead and start 3, 2, 1, 6, and 1, 7.
Okay, as long as this...
We got kills on both?
Affirmative.
Outstanding.
Investigators away, commence RF sniff.
Looks like we're almost maybe like 2 inches out on the bottom side down here.
The close-in weapon system tracks the target and demonstrates live fire capability.
Air MSS, want to confirm safe firing bearings 270 to 020 clockwise? Affirmative, 270, 020 clockwise.
Request launch 12 batteries release 12 rounds, super about port side.
The chaff launchers are operative, and the towed array sonar lines are inspected and tested. All systems are online. A victory for the John Paul Jones.
Good effort by all hands, both for the support leading up to the detonation and for the fight-through period. But we handled things very well. Appreciate the effort of everybody, including all the shock team personnel who have worked so long and so hard to bring this about.
Back at Seal Beach, Ship's Force offloads all inert and remaining live ammunition, where they are packed up and sent out for detailed inspection and engineering analysis. Later, in San Diego, maintenance checks throughout the interior and exterior of the ship provide crucial evidence to the understanding of ship survivability. Final inspection occurs up the harbor from the 32nd Street Naval Station at Southwest Marine Shipyard, where the John Paul Jones settles into dry dock for detailing and hull inspections. The shock program confirmed the need for the multitude of design and construction modifications to harden the DDG 51 class and other surface combatants. The shock team and the ship's force now know the effect that near misses may have on the Arleigh Burke Class destroyers. They have experienced the damaging force and the unpredictable problems arising from shock. Now, armed with this newfound knowledge, they will take survivability to a new level of distinction.
You guys have set the standard. You guys have set the new standard in the Navy. Every one of you set the standard for the Navy. Because that's a hell of a record. We didn't even come, no one has come close to beating our record.
And even though the John Paul Jones demonstrated remarkable fight-through capability, no design is infallible, and no situation predictable. Only constant combat readiness and determination can make a strong ship solid. And a great team superior.